Uh-oh, somebody let slip that the Viper's coming back. I spend a lot of time researching vehicles that I've always been interested in, from the Hummer, to the TRX, to the Hellcats, to the Corvette, and with this video, the Viper. Now, while I was digging around previous interviews with some of the higher-ups at FCA, Stellantis, or whatever you want to call them, I came across a question that Ralph Giles was asked about the future of the Viper, and his response kind of leads me to believe that there is a new Viper in the works, and it's going to be dramatically different from what everyone is used to. So we're going over that interview, some information that Stellantis released a couple weeks ago, and we're going over a sister car that I think will be a perfect body to base the Viper off of. So enough of this fluff, man, let's get straight to this stuff. So before I play a clip about the Viper, help a butter out, hit the subscribe button, join the team. That way you can stay up to date when I come with information about future vehicles. And when I do come out with them, they'll be up here. Well, I think it's this side. They'll be up here in this playlist right here. I'm done with this fluff. Let's get into this stuff.
Powertrain is experimental. I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. What's it in?
Normal. It's in a Cherokee, but it's got a new advanced powertrain I'm testing out.
A question for Ralph Giles. Is there a possibility of another Viper in the works?
I get asked that probably every time I set foot outside my house. In my lifetime, I surely hope so. I know for sure it'll be a different technology, for sure. Whatever the next, if we do another Viper, it's going to have to celebrate a technical step function, a new thing.
Okay, we're going to pause it. Now let's break down what he said in this little snippet, right? Now you see what he says right there. If we do, and then you get that little wink at the end, right? There it is, like the first thing I noticed when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like he wants to tell you that they're making a Viper, but he can't tell you that they're making a Viper. And then the next thing I noticed was it will be different technology, not updated technology. It will be new technology. So that's why I'm thinking that it's not going to be like the same old formula that the Viper was, right? Long hood, manual only transmission. It's going to have to be something totally new. It has to celebrate a new step function, a new thing in technology. Now let's talk about the engine first. So that pretty much to me just guarantees that the V10 engine is going to be gone. I know a lot of people love that engine, but it has to be different from what it currently is, right? It also going to be an issue with the V8. No Hellcat engine, no 392. We already know that by 2024, the V8 platform for the Challenger and Charger are going to be phased out when those new models come out. I talked about it in this video right here a couple weeks ago, where it breaks down the new engine that's going to be coming and when they're gonna swap over to the brand new platform starting around 2024. And while I'm on the subject of that video, it also states that 96% of all nameplates by 2026, I think, will have either a hybrid version or an electric version, right? So we can pretty much guarantee that if the Viper does come back, there will be an electrified version. With that said, I think we'll see the Viper sporting a GME-T6 engine and step it up to like a hybrid drivetrain for the higher trim models and potentially just an electric Viper at some point in time. Now let's talk about the body. Now I'm gonna go with the theme of new and different technology. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the next version of the Viper is most likely gonna be a mid-engine supercar that's based on the Maserati MC20, which if you did not know, is based off of the Alfa Romeo 8C that was canceled. Now, I know a lot of y'all gonna hate that opinion, but it's kind of like there's a lot of coincidences why this would happen to the Viper. So let me shoot my shot for a second. I'm gonna make my point real quick. Now, when this interview came out in like late 2019, a month later, the Alfa Romeo 8C was canceled. And then less than 2 years later, here we are with the MC20 Maserati that was based off of that same platform. And then that same platform is based off of the Alfa Romeo 4C. It's like a $60,000 cheap car that nobody really buys. They attempted in the past to make the Viper mid-engine before. If you look at these pictures from the early 90s, they had already begun to make models to make a mid-engine version of the Viper. But apparently, according to this article right here, the idea was shelved because of the whole Daimler-Chrysler merger. After that happens, one of the managers leaves from Daimler Chrysler, goes to work over Ford, and then a few years later, the Ford GT in the early 2000s was born. That to me was one sign that it was serious about making the Viper mid-engine. And that did not stop them from wanting to make a mid-engine car, because you look back in 04 at this vehicle right here, This right here was a concept called the ME412. That was another mid-engine based car. That car would have had a 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. That's back in 2004. The Viper now can't do that in 2.9 seconds. And apparently the problem with that car was that it was too expensive to develop, which is why I say that using the MC20 would be the best way to get the Viper back without having it be too costly, because platform already exists. Make another variant of that platform, and there you go, we have a new Viper. The MC20, like I said, is based off of the Alfa Romeo 8C, which is based off of the Alfa Romeo 4C. And the one thing all three of those cars had in common was they would have a carbon fiber and aluminum based chassis, which would be a new thing in technology that the Viper could benefit from. So to me, if they make a Viper based off the MC20, they can cut into the development costs of making those two cars. If you look at the Alfa Romeo 4C, that is around a $60K car with a carbon fiber tub. If you look at the MC20, that's like a $200,000 car based off the same technology of the 4C. That right there leaves a big giant gap that the Viper could fit into if they can make that car around like 90K. The Viper could have butterfly doors, something that the Corvette doesn't have, which will help it stand out against the Corvette. The engine that's in the MC20 is a twin turbo V6, but they can either choose to use that engine or save money by using that GME-T6 engine that'll fit in the same spot. Can be around a 500 horsepower vehicle before they add electrification to take it up to the higher horsepower range. Now to me, the Viper is also going to have an automatic for the first time. You can't alienate your customers by making only a manual version of the vehicle. It is going to fail. I do not know of a single production car that's only offered in manual. Just offering an automatic transmission alone is going to increase sales because people can actually drive the car. I know I drive a stick shift, so I wouldn't worry about it, but not everybody's like that. A lot of kids nowadays don't know how to drive a stick shift. Or some people are just too old and they don't want to go through the whole thing of pushing the clutch in all the time, right? And if you look at this slide right here, you'll see that they are developing a dual clutch transmission. This particular transmission can be adapted for a mid-engine format. Now that's probably why that Maserati MC20 does not currently have a hybrid drivetrain right now, because they're waiting for this particular transmission to be available to put it in that car, which is why I would say that a Viper will probably show up around like 2025, give it like a couple of years after this particular transmission comes out for them to actually offer a Viper. Another point to make is if they use the Maserati MC20 as a base for the Viper, they can actually have that car either partially or fully built over there in Europe and then import it over here to the US. Or they can just have the chassis built, bring it over here. They can still use Connor to do final assembly for the Viper and hopefully do like a Viper customer experience where you can go to the Connor plant, go to a whole museum and stuff, go pick your car up and drive it home. That would be awesome. And if you guys do that, I want credit for it. Now I know all the stuff I said about the Viper is a huge leap, but the Viper has to make that huge of a leap in order for it to survive and come back in the market in the future, right? I mean, it has to compete with the C8 Corvette. It has to compete with the Hellcats. Those two cars right there, I feel is the biggest reason why that car got killed off. C8 Corvette is literally like hands down the best car you can get under $100,000. The thing without a supercharger can beat pretty much any car. It's mid-engine, and it put in the everyday working man's hands a supercar with an engine in the back. I mean, that's why the Corvette is just selling so well. I mean, if you look at these sales figures to the Corvette, to the Hellcat, Dodge got to do something about this. And even if you don't want to benchmark against the C8 Corvette, it has to be way better than the Hellcat, right? Because if those two cars are offered again like it was the last time around the same price, people are not going to buy the Viper when they get the Hellcat. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Do you think that the Viper should move over to a mid-engine format that'll take on a C8 Corvette and wipe the floor with every other single car that's anywhere near its price category? And if it doesn't, shame on y'all. But I honestly think this right here would be an awesome idea. Had the new Viper show up at car shows, literally a sub $100,000 car at butterfly doors. So let me know down in the comments what you think. And like I said earlier, help a butter out. Like this video, and until the next time, I gotta go find out about a new track out.